Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning into Carol's Daily Sauce. Please do me a favor, like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to click on the bell if you want to be notified of all of the videos that I upload, and I upload a lot. With that being said, we are still in our Unraveling the Layers, Memoirs of a Wounded Soul, Layer 1. This book is amazing, and I would think so because I am a contributing writer. The authors of this book are Jessica Leanne and Melissa Sampson, and I have to give them their credit for putting together everything, making everything come together. But basically, this book is an anthology for women. It's an anthology of what some women have went through. It was created to help women to see that you can heal from your past. You are enough. These stories in this book are empowering, they're uplifting, they're encouraging, but more than anything, they are true. I pray that you will be blessed by them. What I am starting to do now is I will be putting the name of the stories. However, I will not be letting you guys know who the story is by until the very end of it. So the author will no longer going forth today, be under the name of the story throughout the recordings. I'm not going to do that until the very end. The name of this is called Becoming Whole. Like most people who were born without a silver spoon, my life hasn't been easy. I learned about the depths of my life in a soul-shattering way. From a very young age, my life had been devastating. While I had some joyful times, most of my teenage years that I can recall, I was shy, withdrawn, just a very shy and introverted girl. I had all kinds of issues. I was unhappy, overweight, and to be real honest with you, I was severely broken. I felt a constant feeling of defeat, of being used, abused, and I craved restoration. Raised in a single parent home by my mother, our relationship was strained. I was so sad, and it seemed as if my sadness went unnoticed. Where did this sadness come from anyway? Well, there was a molestation that I experienced. The communication problems between my mother and I weren't the best, and I was consumed with guilt. I had not one violator, but multiple. Unfortunately, more than one person took advantage of me, and most of them were family members. Because I was repeatedly molested, I began to think early on that I had absolutely no worth. Being molested at an early age by a family member traumatized me. That excruciating experience left me searching for myself, my happiness, and even the ability to love myself. I can remember being touched by my uncle at a very young age. Imagine having memories and even nightmares of that. I also remember going to a psychologist as early as 5 years old, and my mother's complaint was, excuse me, she lacks affection. No, my mother didn't participate in any of the therapy sessions, so I didn't have her support. I wish I could tell you why I was in therapy. I was a young child and I didn't understand what was happening. Since my affection was misguided, I had to learn early on to protect myself and my emotions because of the sexual abuse that I had experienced. I believed in my heart and soul that there was no way out. I was gripped with fear and scared to tell anyone. Once my mother found out about it, she didn't talk about it to me in great detail. No counseling, nothing. I dealt with the pain the best way that I knew how. During my childhood, I was a loner, remember? I said I was shy. I didn't have any friends. I had my sister's friends, and I felt like they had to like me because they liked my sister. My molestation caused me to be shy, withdrawn, and it was extremely challenging for me to even trust people or even to make and develop strong friendships on my own. My oldest sister, who is only older than me by a year and exactly 9 days, never seemed to have a problem with sharing friends. She was outgoing. She had no problems being accepted, and as a matter of fact, she often welcomed me to join her and her friends in fun, which most times I declined. Unfortunately, when you go through such traumatic experiences, you question almost everything about yourself. You literally trust no one. I can remember at recess or lunch in elementary school eating alone. In high school, it was not uncommon to find me in the library reading Time magazine or U.S. News and World Today. Without best friends or close friends, you are not pressured to share experiences or stories with them. Your secrets become yours, and they remain yours until total and complete deliverance takes place. I became super angry with my mother as I got older. She was always so mean, in my opinion, and she continued to brush my molestation under the rug. At least that's how I felt. It wasn't important to her. No one was ever held accountable. I felt like she didn't care and that she accepted what had been done to me when I hadn't. While it was hectic in my young life, I was grateful that I accepted the Lord Jesus Christ into my life around 13 years old. I received the gift of speaking in tongues at 14 years old, and I knew that there was a spiritual calling on my life. I threw myself in almost every auxiliary. I joined the choir, the drama club. I was at Bible study every week and at church every time the doors opened, because in Jesus, I felt I had hope. Yet, I still struggled with understanding why God had allowed so much pain in my life. And I often asked, why me, Lord? I worked for the Summer Youth Employment Program a couple of summers prior to graduating from high school. And one evening when I got off work, a friend of mine who was a regular volunteer at the library gave me a ride home. Meanwhile, on the way to his house, he made a wrong turn. He claimed that he was going to his parents' house to pick up something. We pulled into the garage and he told me, go ahead and come in. Once I did, he was all over me. As I tried to get away, he became very aggressive and mean. I was so scared. Thank God that he didn't rape me, but that surely was his intent. So now my friend had violated me. Should I report him, I thought? No, I would be in the wrong for putting myself in the position to be attacked. Or so I thought. So that went unreported. Once again, I was forced to stuff another incident down my throat and not speak on it. Shortly after that, I began getting physically sick. I was experiencing headaches and dizziness. I went to the doctor. The stress and confusion caused me to deal with the effects of hypertension. My physical health was not good. Depression had me losing lots of weight at a fast pace, and I was torn to pieces. But now, or by now, I knew I was trash. Still tormented by the memories of molestation, it seemed I'd always be a victim. I had so much internal pain, yet nobody talked to me or ministered to me about my sadness. I shared my molestation with my older sister, but she too was only a child. I'm sure she was traumatized by it, yet it just wasn't something that we discussed regularly. At one time, I thought my mother had shared it with my grandmother because my grandmother was always so mean to me. I was very developed for my age, and at the age of 10 years old, I looked to be 16. My grandmother's attitude seemed to change toward me, and I felt in my mind it was because she knew. Every time I asked her anything, she was snappy with me. When my grandmother passed, I didn't shed one tear. I couldn't cry. I wouldn't miss her because I thought she knew, and I felt that she and my mother decided collectively to keep that secret concealed. Thoughts of suicide began to plague me. Depression set in deeply. Because of the strained relationship with my mother, I moved out of my mother's house at 19 years old. I had a job, an apartment, and I thought that I had found peace, but that too was a facade. When I came home from work, I was often sad, lonely, and scared. Though it was a locked and secured building, I felt anyone could come in and kill or rape me if they chose to. I lived in constant fear. Often told how beautiful I was, I felt the ugliest person upon the face of this earth. My sadness was slowly but surely killing me. To lift my spirits, I began going out, clubbing with my cousins. Along with that lifestyle came drinking, and all of this occurred while underage. Now I knew this wasn't what God wanted for me. But when I went out, scantily dressed, I was turning heads and getting all kinds of attention from men. I was finally started to feel beautiful. My false sense of confidence in my newfound beauty caught the eye of a manager at the Oakland Army base. We dated for a short time. He would allow me to waltz all up in there tipsy, not paying a dime for anything, while I flirted and danced. Because I was under the influence of alcohol, I thought that I was happy. I clubbed, went to work, clubbed, and went to work. I dated a few men during that time, but the relationships didn't last because the issues caused too much confusion in relationships. I was on a constant merry-go-round, searching for something. I just didn't know what it was exactly. One day, my cousin introduced me to this guy. He was very cute, very nice, and from the very beginning of our friendship, which led into a relationship quickly, he gave me everything I desired. He was in the Navy, and knowing that made me feel secure. From the very beginning of our relationship, we talked of marriage, which was comforting to hear. He appeared to be different from all the rest, so I let my guard down. We dated and continued to date until he went out to sea. Things were still good even after he returned. Then he went on a 6-month cruise. I received a call from Africa. And at that time, we discussed that when he returned, that we'd get married. I was finally getting the emotional stability that I craved. Our marriage was ideal. We were young, but we loved one another, and we really wanted our marriage to work because we had both come from single-parent homes. His father had abandoned his family, and I never really knew his dad. And I never really knew my dad, only when I visited the South in my early teen years. We put everything in our marriage, and 6 months after getting married, I was pregnant. My ex-husband continued to go out to sea. When I was due, actually the day I went into labor, he was shipped out for another 6 months while I laid in the hospital bed in the labor and delivery department on base. Once again, I felt robbed. Once again, I was alone to deal with all kinds of new emotions. I loved my beautiful baby girl, but fear gripped me. Though they gave me an epidural, nothing could help me with yet another feeling of being deserted and in pain. I knew my husband was in the Navy, but I personally felt it was heartless to pull a man out to sea for so long while his new young wife was in labor. I almost lost my mind. The pain was excruciating, and after 48 hours of intense labor, excuse me, I had an emergency C-section. This made me scared too. Would I make it out of surgery? I thought. My baby was in fetal distress. Would she die? Oh Lord, I could not handle this happening. I had a successful surgery and a healthy daughter, and she gave me a sense of joy that no words could ever explain. Fast forward years later, we have 3 children. We're still married. We now reside in Newport News, Virginia. We moved to Newport News, Virginia after my ex-husband returned from his Westpac tour sometime in May of 1990, when our only child at the time was 8 months. Both of us, he and I, were in a backslidden state. There was infidelity and much confusion in our marriage. We remained at odds with one another, always bickering, regardless of money and the cars we had or the house we owned. We grew further apart. This is when I decided to leave Virginia. At this time, the internet and social media had become popular. This was in early 2000. I started communicating with male friends online because in my mind, my marriage was over. I met some for coffee, Starbucks to be exact, went on dates, and even began seriously dating. I was clubbing and drinking again, uncontrollably. White Zinfandel, tequila, and I were the best of friends. I reverted back to the version of me that I was prior to my marriage. I was so eager to fill the void my husband had left that I began to date men who were physically, verbally, mentally, and emotionally abusive. My dating life was crazy. I had offers of marriage. I dated men that were insecure and accused me of doing everything that you could have possibly imagined. Life became extremely draining for me. I remained depressed. At one point of my journey, I was put on 2 antidepressants at a time due to being severely suicidal. I had standing appointments with my psychologist weekly, and I regurgitated the pain of my life verbally on her on a weekly basis without no regrets. Never was I hospitalized or committed for my depression. Yet, on more than one occasion, I searched for ways to commit suicide without pain. I felt that I had experienced enough pain in this life. I had restraining orders in force, dated men who had married others, dated drug dealers. I was a real magnet for the bad boys. I was really in a bad place, all the while searching. But thank you, Jesus, there is hope and deliverance. I'm going to stop right there because it's already been 20 minutes. I am not, as I said at the beginning of this recording, going to share who this author is, and I'm going to be doing that going forth. I will be sharing the author at the end of the story. I think it adds a lot of suspense, and I like suspense. I hope you guys do too. But I do hope that you are blessed by these stories, as this one right here has blessed me as well. The name of the story is called Becoming Whole. If you desire to have one of these books are only $10.99 on Amazon.com. That way you will know who it is ahead of time, who we are reading about, who we are discussing, whose story, whose life story, whose story of deliverance and healing we're on. And just being able to witness through all of the bad things that these women have went through, what really and truly can come about in your life. Well, that's the first part of Becoming Whole. I will come back in a couple of days and we'll finish up the rest of the story. This is kind of a long story, as they all have been pretty lengthy, with the exception of the poems that are in the book. But as we always say, when you've been through something, it's a story. I hope you guys have enjoyed this story, Becoming Whole. God bless you so much. I hope that all of you are having a great day on today. Today is the day that I'm trying to do a couple of recordings. Sure, if I'm going to do any videos. And then I don't have on makeup or anything. I just got up, got myself some clothes on and got myself together. But I may do a video because my makeup doesn't make me. I do have a couple of videos that I need to do, and a couple of them that I still need to edit. So thank you so much for tuning into Carol's Daily Sauce. Please like, comment, and share, because sharing is caring. Make sure you share this out, because I want an army of women to be healed and delivered. I love each and every one of you so very much. Have a blessed day. Be blessed. And have a wonderful Wednesday. Mwah!